Sometimes you think you're being clever, and then life shows you exactly how stupid you really were. I'm Molly, I'm 28, and I thought I had everything figured out. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy my videos and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Look, I need to tell you about what happened with Elijah and this whole conference situation because everyone's acting like I'm some psycho, when really I was just trying to live my life. We'd been together 4 years living in his apartment, for the last 2, and the man was suffocating me. Not in a romantic way, in that needy, clingy way that makes you want to scream. Always asking where I'm going, what time I'll be home, wanting to know every detail of my day like he's my parole officer or something. I work in pharmaceutical sales, decent money, flexible schedule, and I'm good at what I do. But Elijah, he works from home doing some tech thing, which means he's always there when I leave and always there when I get back. No space, no mystery, just him hovering around like a lost puppy, waiting for attention. The man used to be this player back in college, at least that's what his friends would joke about. But now he acted like I was going to disappear if he didn't keep tabs on me 24/7. It was pathetic. So when Forrest started DMing me on Instagram a few months ago, I wasn't looking for anything. He's my ex from years back, relocated to Miami for work. And his messages started innocent enough, just catching up, asking how life was treating me. But then the conversations got longer, more personal, and I found myself looking forward to his messages more than coming home to Elijah's needy energy. Forrest mentioned he missed talking to someone who actually understood him, someone with depth. That's when I started seeing Elijah differently, really seeing him. This man who used to have women chasing him in college now spent his evenings asking if I wanted to watch Netflix together, or if I needed anything from the store. Where was the confidence? Where was the man who could handle himself without needing constant reassurance that we were okay? When Forrest suggested meeting up for a weekend, nothing serious, just to catch up in person, I saw an opportunity. Miami sounded perfect, and I deserved a break from Elijah's suffocating routine. But I couldn't just tell him I was going to see an ex, could I? That would have sent him into full panic mode, probably would have wanted to come with me, or something equally embarrassing. That's when I remembered our company's quarterly meetings. Perfect cover story. I researched everything about our regional conferences, made mental notes about which drugs we were pushing, even looked up the hotel where these events usually happened. I'm not stupid. I knew I had to make it believable. Booking the flight felt exciting, like I was finally doing something for myself instead of just existing in the Elijah's world. The hotel Forrest picked looked amazing right on the beach, and he'd already made dinner reservations at this place he said I'd love. Between us, I was giddy thinking about it. When was the last time someone put effort into planning something special for me? Elijah's idea of a date was asking if I wanted Chinese takeout or pizza. But then I needed to look the part right. If I was supposedly going to present to the board, I should feel confident. So I went to Victoria's Secret and picked out some new pieces. A red lace set that made me feel incredible, and this black silk teddy that was just gorgeous. I told myself it was about confidence, about feeling good in my own skin during an important work presentation. Sunday night, I was packing in the bedroom when Elijah walked in. He saw me folding my blazers and work clothes, everything looking professional and appropriate. Then his eyes landed on the Victoria's Secret bag sitting on the dresser. New stuff for the trip? He asked, and something in his tone immediately put me on the defensive. Yeah, needed some fresh basics, I said, not looking up from my suitcase. Why was he even paying attention to my shopping bags? He walked over and peeked in the bag. The audacity of this man. That's some fancy underwear for a conference. I stopped folding and looked at him. Here we go with the jealousy and paranoia. LOL. You're insecure about a work conference. Seriously, it's just underwear, Elijah. Just seems odd. You've been to 5 conferences since we met. Never needed lingerie before. Oh my God, are you tracking my underwear purchases now? That's psycho behavior. I zipped my suitcase harder than necessary, making sure he heard my frustration. Maybe I just want to feel confident presenting to the board. Not everything is about you. The board's going to see your underwear. This man was unbelievable. Confidence comes from within. When I feel good in what I'm wearing underneath, I present better. It's a woman thing. You wouldn't understand, right? Because he wouldn't. Elijah was the type of guy who wore the same 3 t-shirts on rotation and thought grooming meant running his fingers through his hair. He had no concept of what it meant to put effort into your appearance to feel powerful and attractive. That's probably why he was so threatened by the idea of me looking good for anyone other than him. Not insecure, he said, just observant. Well, observe less and trust more. God, this is exhausting. I grabbed my toiletry bag and headed for the bathroom, making sure to slam a few bottles around so he'd know how annoyed I was. The thing is, I wasn't lying about the confidence part. When you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you perform better. If that happened to coincide with seeing Forrest well, that was just a bonus. But Elijah's reaction proved exactly why I couldn't tell him the truth. The man couldn't handle the idea of me buying new underwear for a work trip. Imagine if he knew I was meeting an ex. While I was in the bathroom, I could hear him moving around the bedroom, probably sulking about our conversation. When I came out, he was sitting on the bed, looking like I'd kicked his dog. Babe, I called from the bathroom. Can you grab my phone charger from the kitchen? Sure, he said, and I heard his footsteps heading down the hall. I finished packing my toiletries, thinking about how different tomorrow would be. In less than 24 hours, I'd be in Miami with someone who actually appreciated me, someone who made an effort to plan something special, instead of just assuming I'd be there whenever he needed attention. When Elijah came back with my charger, I smiled at him in the mirror. Maybe I was being too harsh. He couldn't help being insecure. Sorry for snapping, just stressed about the presentation. What are you presenting on the... new drug trials. Boring stuff. I plugged in my phone and started blow-drying my hair. Which drug? The arthritis one, you know. I kept the hairdryer running so he couldn't ask more questions. The less details I gave, the better. I'm going to grab beer with Terrence tonight, he said when I turned off the dryer, since you're leaving tomorrow. That's perfect. I need to pack in peace anyway. And I did need him gone so I could text Forrest about our plans without worrying about Elijah reading over my shoulder. My flight's at 6:00, so I'll probably Uber around 4:00. Cool. Love you. Love you too. But as he left the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about his tone. Elijah was usually more clingy before I traveled, wanting to spend every last minute together. This casual acceptance felt weird, but maybe he was finally learning to give me space. Monday morning came fast, and I was buzzing with excitement. Forrest had texted me the night before about the restaurant he'd booked someplace with incredible seafood and a view of the water. When was the last time Elijah had put thought into anything like that? Never, because his idea of romance was asking if I wanted to split an appetizer. I was finishing my coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number, probably a work call. Molly, this is Savannah. I got your boyfriend's message about flowers for your hotel room. I'm confused. There's no quarterly conference this week. You requested PTO for personal days. Is everything okay? My stomach dropped. What message? What flowers? Oh, I must have mixed up the dates. Sorry to bother you, Savannah. No bother, but Molly, did you tell Elijah you had a work conference? I probably misunderstood something. Thanks, Savannah. Molly, wait. I like you. You're a good employee. But if you're telling your boyfriend you're at a work event when you're not, that's concerning. I'll handle it. Thanks. I hung up and stared at my phone. What the hell had Elijah done? He'd called my boss about flowers. My hands were shaking as I tried to process what just happened. How did he even get Savannah's number? But I didn't have time to figure it out. My Uber was coming in 3 hours and I needed to get to the airport. Whatever Elijah was up to, I'd deal with it later. Maybe he was just being sweet trying to surprise me and got confused about the dates. At 2 p.m., I texted him, leaving for airport soon, going to crush this presentation. He replied, you've got this. Text me when you land. Love you. See, I was overthinking it. Elijah was probably just trying to be romantic and got his wires crossed about the conference schedule. Crisis averted. The flight to Miami was perfect. I had a window seat, the weather was beautiful, and I kept thinking about how good it would feel to be somewhere warm, with someone who actually made an effort. Forrest had sent me pictures of the hotel. It was gorgeous right on the beach, exactly the kind of place Elijah would never think to book. When I landed, I texted Elijah, landed, heading to hotel. Presentation isn't until tomorrow afternoon, so might explore tonight. Then I turned off my phone and focused on what mattered, finally getting some excitement back in my life. The hotel was even better in person. Forrest was waiting in the lobby, looking good in that effortless way some men have. Not trying too hard like Elijah always did, just naturally confident. We hugged and I remembered why I'd been attracted to him in the first place. "You look amazing," he said, and I could tell he meant it. When was the last time Elijah had looked at me like that? Like he was genuinely happy to see me, instead of just relieved I was home. We went to dinner at the place he'd picked, and the conversation flowed like no time had passed. He asked about my work, my goals, what I wanted out of life. Real questions, not just, "How was your day?" on autopilot. This was what I'd been missing, someone who saw me as more than just a girlfriend who happened to live in their apartment. After dinner, we walked along the beach. The moon was full, the waves were perfect, and I felt more alive than I had in months. When Forrest took my hand, it felt natural, like this was where I was supposed to be. "I've been thinking about you a lot," he said, stopping to face me. "About us, about what could have been if we met at the right time." "Maybe this is the right time," I said, and I meant it. We kissed under the stars, and it was everything I remembered and more. This was passion, this was excitement, this was what a relationship should feel like. Not the comfortable, boring routine I had with Elijah, but actual fire. When we got back to the hotel, I felt beautiful, desired, appreciated. The red lace set I'd bought looked incredible, and Forrest made sure I knew it. This was why women bought lingerie, not for confidence during board presentations, but for moments like this when someone made you feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. I fell asleep in his arms, feeling like myself again, like the woman I used to be before I got trapped in Elijah's suffocating routine. This was what I deserved, what I'd been missing. Tuesday morning, I woke up feeling amazing. Forrest was already up ordering room service and planning our day. He'd researched activities, made lunch reservations, even found a spa where we could get couples massages. The effort he was putting in made me realize how little Elijah actually tried. Around noon, I remembered I should probably check in with Elijah, make it look like I was busy with work stuff. I turned my phone back on and immediately saw 17 missed calls and a bunch of texts. The first text made my stomach drop. "Hey Monica, Diane called me back about the flowers. Funny thing, there's no conference this week. You took PTO, so wherever you are, whoever you're with, hope the new lingerie is a hit. Your stuff is in storage room, B12. Lock code is 4829. Don't come to the apartment. I changed the locks. We're done." I read it 3 times before it sank in. He knew. Somehow he knew everything. But how? And what did he mean about changing the locks? You can't just kick someone out of their home. I called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Sent text after text, demanding he answer me, explain what was happening, why he was being so dramatic, over a simple misunderstanding. "Elijah, this isn't funny. Answer me. You can't just lock me out. I live there. This is illegal. I'm calling the police." Nothing, radio silence. Forrest was watching me have my meltdown, and I could see the concern in his eyes shifting to something else. Discomfort, maybe. This wasn't the cool, confident woman he'd been flirting with over Instagram. This was messy, complicated real life. "Everything okay?" he asked, but his tone was different, distant. "My boyfriend's being psychotic. He somehow thinks I'm cheating just because I took a work trip." "But aren't you cheating, I mean?" I stared at him. "This is different. We're just catching up. This doesn't count as cheating." Even as I said it, I knew how it sounded, but what Elijah was doing was insane. Changing locks, packing my stuff, acting like I'd committed some unforgivable crime when all I'd done was take a weekend for myself. The rest of Tuesday was ruined. I kept calling Elijah, kept texting, kept trying to make him understand that he was overreacting. Forrest grew quieter as the day went on, and by evening he was making excuses about being tired, about having work calls in the morning. Maybe I should head back early, I said, hoping he'd tell me not to, hoping he'd fight for us to have more time together. Yeah, that might be best, he said, and something inside me crumbled. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This was supposed to be my perfect weekend, my chance to feel alive again. Instead, Elijah had ruined everything with his paranoid jealousy and controlling behavior. I changed my flight to Wednesday morning and spent Tuesday night alone in the hotel room, calling Elijah over and over, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails trying to explain that he was misunderstanding everything. When I landed Wednesday afternoon, I took an Uber straight to the apartment. My key didn't work. He'd actually changed the locks. I stood in the hallway, trying my key over and over, like it might suddenly work, like this might all be some horrible joke. A neighbor I barely knew peeked out of their door. You okay, honey? My boyfriend changed the locks while I was at a work conference. I live here. She looked uncomfortable. Maybe you should call him. He won't answer. I was crying now, standing in the hallway, like some pathetic woman locked out of her own home. I called my mom. Leighton, I need help. Elijah's lost his mind and locked me out of the apartment. What happened, sweetie? I went to a work conference and he's convinced I was cheating. He won't even talk to me. A work conference, but didn't you tell me you took vacation days? My stomach dropped. Had I told her that I couldn't remember what I'd said to whom anymore? It was both. A conference during my vacation time. Silence on the other end. Mom. Molly, are you sure you're telling me everything? Why is everyone acting like I'm some criminal? I went to Miami for work, and my boyfriend went psycho and changed the locks. That's what happened. But even as I said it, I could hear how it sounded. The lies were getting tangled, and I couldn't keep track of what I'd told to whom. My mom agreed to come over with my brother Spencer to help get my stuff from storage. When they arrived, I could see the questions in their eyes, but they helped me load boxes into Spencer's truck without saying much. It wasn't until we were back at my mom's house, surrounded by my belongings, that the reality hit me. I was 28 years old, sitting in my childhood bedroom, because I'd lost the apartment I'd shared with someone I'd lived with for 2 years. Molly, my mom said gently, what really happened in Miami? And that's when I broke down and told her everything. About Forrest, about the fake conference, about feeling trapped and suffocated and needing something more than what Elijah could give me. Oh, honey, she said, and I could hear the disappointment in her voice. But you don't understand what it was like living with him. He was so needy, so clingy, I couldn't breathe. So you lied to him and flew to another state to be with your ex-boyfriend. It wasn't like that. It was just, I needed to see what else was out there. I needed to feel alive again. And now Forrest wasn't returning my texts. Now I was homeless. Now everyone was looking at me like I was the villain in this story, when really I was just a woman who'd made a mistake trying to find happiness. Now I don't know, I admitted. But I did know one thing. Elijah had overreacted. Yes, I'd lied about the conference. Yes, I'd spent the weekend with my ex. But his response was cruel and extreme. Changing the locks, packing my stuff, refusing to even discuss it like adults. That wasn't love, that was control. 3 months later, I'm still trying to piece my life back together. I found a studio apartment I can barely afford my relationship with. My parents is strained, and Forrest has completely ghosted me. The worst part is having to see Elijah's social media posts about his new life, his new girlfriend, how much happier he seems without me. The truth is, I threw away 4 years with someone who actually loved me for a weekend fantasy that lasted exactly that long. A weekend. But I can't be the only one to blame here. If Elijah had been a better boyfriend, if he'd made me feel desired and appreciated instead of suffocated and trapped, maybe I never would have needed to look elsewhere. Maybe we both made mistakes. Maybe we just weren't right for each other. But the way he handled it, The cruelty of changing locks and refusing to talk, that showed me who he really was underneath all that clingy neediness. I deserve better than that.